Hello and welcome to Super Great Kids Stories, wise tales from storytellers around the world which will make you laugh and sometimes cry. Recommended for ages 5 to 105. I'm Kim and I love stories. Well, hello Super Great Kids. I hope you're having a happy week. I've got 2 reasons to be cheerful. First of all, we've reached our 250th story on the podcast. So, to celebrate, we thought this week we'd share not 1, but 2 stories with you. And my second reason to be cheerful is that I've just been on a little trip to Shropshire in the English countryside, where I stayed in a house which is over 400 years old. I don't think it was haunted, but it might have been. There were plenty of creaking sounds at night, but sadly, I didn't meet the ghost of the bloody finger. And the stars in Shropshire shone so brightly, it felt as if Sky God had just scattered his jewels across the sky. Amazing. The first story we're going to hear today has lots of stars in it. It's about a poor girl who sets off one winter night under the stars to find her luck. It's called Star Coin, and it's a fairy tale from Germany told by Simone Schuemmelfeder. Just before we begin, there are lots of stories people tell about stars and how they think that they got into the sky. Some people say they're the eyes of dragons in the sky, and others say that they are the holes in the cape which Sky God has thrown across the sky. If you were to make up a story about how you think the stars became, how would you explain how they got there? Maybe a sky giant scatters his marbles in a tantrum, or a volcano shoots up diamonds instead of lava and they stick all over the sky. Have a little think about the story you'd tell while we have a quick word with the grown-ups. Ready? Off you go. Hello, Super Great Kids, I'm back. Did you think about what story you might tell about how the stars became? Maybe you could make one up and tell it to your grown-ups. So here is this week's starry story told by Simone. Are you snuggling comfortably? Then let the stars pour down and the story begin.
Hello everyone, my name is Simone Schuemmelfeder. I'm a storyteller and I'm from Germany. Today I want to tell you a story, a fairy tale that could be called a winter fairy tale. I used to listen to this when I was a little kid, and I really loved to listen to it during winter nights when the snow would be deep outside and it would be really frosty. The name of this fairy tale is Storyteller, or Star Coin. Storyteller is one of the many fairy tales collected by the brothers Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm. Now, Stern means star. Thaler is the old word for the money they used to use in Germany. And when I was listening to that fairy tale as a little girl, nobody called money Thaler any longer. So back then I knew that was a really old word. And I love to listen out in fairy tales for these old words that show you that these stories are actually really old. Now, this is a story about a little girl who's called Storyteller, Star Coin. But at the beginning of the story, we do not know her name. She doesn't have a name. And only at the end, she will be called Star Coin. And this is why. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who had no one and nothing in the world. All she had was the clothes she was wearing and a little piece of bread that somebody had given her who felt sorry for her. But even though she was so poor, she was always hopeful. She thought that something good would happen to her. So as she was walking through the snow, trying to find her luck, she wasn't sad. She wasn't scared. She was humming to herself. Now, as she was walking through the snow was crunching. Can you help me? Crunch, crunch, crunch. She just left the town behind and was now walking through a snowy field, and there was a few trees at the side of the field, and there, on the trees, because it was so cold, there were icicles. And these icicles, sometimes they dropped down from the branches. Foop, foop, foop. Can you do that? Foop, foop, foop. And they fell into the snow. Now, as the little girl was walking along, she saw an old man walking towards her. He came across the field, and he was as poor as herself. Now, as he came closer, she could hear him mumbling, and when he was close enough, he said, "Oh, I'm so hungry. Oh." Could he say that? "Oh, I'm so hungry." "Oh, you poor man," she said, and she gave him her piece of bread, the last thing that she had. She gave it to him and she said, "Here, you take it. I'm not hungry." And before he could thank her, she went on her way. And as she kept on walking, she saw another child walking through the snow. Now, this was a little boy, possibly a bit younger than her, but just as poor. And as he was walking, she could hear him, "Oh, I'm so cold. Oh, I'm so cold. Can you shiver a bit for me? Oh." And he was looking very, very cold out there in the snow, especially his poor ears, who were all red with the icy wind hitting them. "Oh, I'm so cold. Oh." "Oh no," said the little girl, "here you go." And she pulled her old woolly hat off and gave it to that boy. And before he could thank her, she was on her way. Walking along, she met another little girl, as old as herself and possibly just as poor. And as she was walking, the little girl came up to her and said, "Please, can you help me? I'm so cold." She was shivering. And our little girl said, "I can help you. Here you go, take my coat." And she took off her coat and she gave it to the little girl, and on she walked. Now, believe it or not, this little girl met a lot of people on her way, and they all needed her help. So she started giving them whatever she had. Now, can you pretend you take off a scarf? Wrap it up. There you go, take off the scarf. She gave away her scarf. Now pretend, can you take off your gloves? Yeah, 1, 2. She gave away her gloves. Can you pretend to take off your shoes? 1, 2. She gave away her shoes. Can you pretend to take off your socks? Now only pretend, it might be cold outside. 1, 2. She gave away her socks. And finally, when it was already getting dark, she reached a forest. And at that stage, she had given away pretty much everything that she had. All that was left was her undershirt. Now, when I was a little girl, I did not quite know what that meant. I thought it was like a little vest that you put underneath your jumper. But back in those days, underneath the dress, girls and women would wear an underdress, which be maybe as long as it would go to your knees. And that's what the girl was wearing, but it was really thin, and that would not keep you warm. Imagine going out into the snow in your pajamas. It would be even worse than that. Now that was all she had, and she walked in her bare feet through the snow into the forest. It was very quiet. One of those quiet, frosty nights. You could hear nothing, only the silent crunching of the snow as the girl walked through the forest. And as she came to a clearing, she looked up into the dark night sky, and she looked up and saw the stars twinkling in the distance. And she thought to herself, I wonder how I will find my luck." And the stars looked down at that little girl, and they had seen all she had done, and they felt very proud of her, and they decided to help her. So as the girl was looking up, the stars were falling from the sky, falling towards her, and as they fell, they turned into gold coins, gold and silver coins that rained down all around the little girl. Now she picked them up, and she picked up the hem of her undershirt, and she put them all in there. And then when she looked down, that little thin shirt she was wearing, it had turned into a beautiful dress, and in that she could carry all the coins that had fallen from the sky. And that's how she got rich and didn't have to worry about hunger or cold anymore. And from that day on, people called her Star Coin, Sterntaler, because for this little girl, the stars had fallen from the sky.
Thanks very much for sharing that story, Simona. That little girl was very kind, wasn't she? But here's my question. Do you think you'd give your last piece of bread to an old man if you were cold and hungry? I'd like to think I would, but I might just want to eat it myself. I bet you'd share yours. Ask your grown-ups what they think they'd do. What a beautiful picture that story painted of a little girl holding out the hem of her dress as it rained down gold and silver coins. I wonder if you could draw that for us with all the stars sprinkling down. Star rain. I love it. Send your pictures via our website at supergreatkidsstories.com and we can share them with other story lovers on our Facebook page, facebook.com/supergreatkidsstories, and on our Instagram art gallery at supergreatkids_art. And now, it's time to spread our wings and take a trip around the world with Story Owl to meet owlets who've recently joined our storytelling club. Since this story's from Germany, let's begin there and say hello to owlets Nora, who is 6, and Josephine, who is 5. They really like the Baba Yaga stories. Nora drew a lovely picture of the Christmas spiders, which is another German story. They travelled to Spain last year, and while on the trip, they listened to every story on our podcast. Wow! That, which we know now, is at least 250 stories. I think that makes you super fans. And staying in Europe, let's head towards the tippy top of Scotland to greet owlets Liliana, who is 5, and Maya, who's 2.5. They live in Aberdeenshire and became owlets at Christmas thanks to their kind Nana. They listen to the stories on long drives. Liliana and Maya also love the Baba Yaga stories and enjoy doing impressions. Baba Yaga, hoo, hoo. Very good. And leaving Europe now, let's head across to Michigan in the US next to say hello to Roos, who is 6, and Castor, who is 3. They're new owlets, but they've been listening to the podcast for a long time. Mum says she loves the stories too, and their favourites are The Girl Who Wished for Wings, Cap of Rushes, Tortoise and Sons, and the Finn McCool stories. Oh, and they also say they love the sharing song. Me too. Super Great David wrote that song, isn't he clever? You know the one. Ready? If you tell a friend and I tell a friend, we'll all have a super great time. Yes, that one. Let's fly southwest to Katie in Texas next to say hello to owlet Mateo, who recently turned 4. His favourite stories are The Gingerbread Man and The Child Gods and the Straw Hats. Good choices. Mateo was very brave this week after he had a biking accident and had to take a trip to hospital with his mum. We're sending you our happiest story thoughts, Mateo, and hope you get better really soon. Maybe you could snuggle up with your dog Henry and cat Ash and listen to some stories while you get better. Toop says stories are good medicine. Let's head across now to beautiful South Carolina to hoot hello to Owlets, Sydney and her brother Ryan. Sydney recently turned 7 and became an owlet to celebrate. The family's favourites are the cat and the parrot and Packer and the beetle. And let's flip-flap-fly up to Brooklyn in New York next to say hello and welcome to Owlet Olivia, who is 4.5. She particularly loves the trickster stories. Me too, Olivia. Good choice. And let's spread our wings and fly across now to Ohio to greet new owlets, Amandla, who is 8, Adenike, who is 6, and Ajani, who is 4. Their favourite stories are Anansi and the Magic Pot, The Fox or Coyote and the Giant, and The Hairy Toe. Welcome to the club and happy listening. And staying in Ohio, let's say hello to 3 more owlets. Henry, who is 8, Wendy, who is 6, and Kelsey, who is 4. They love all the scary stories. You're all super brave. And let's say hello now to Owlet Katerina, who we met at our live show in London last month. Katerina will be 7 in March. She particularly liked Anthula and the Calicancery and has directed her mum and dad in some of her plays. That's it for now. More shout-outs next week. Thanks for being patient. We've had a lot of owlets fluttering into our nest over the past few weeks. Thanks to all owlets for your support. And thanks to all of you for sending in pictures for us to post on our Facebook page and Instagram gallery. If you'd like to see those pictures, go to facebook.com/supergreatkidsstories or to our Instagram art gallery at supergreatkids_art. Our Pick of the Week picture goes to Nora from Malaga in Spain for her colourful picture of Ratoncito Pérez, the Spanish tooth mouse. Thanks, Nora, for cheering us up on a grey January with your colourful, spotty, imaginative picture. I love the little bag that the tooth mouse used to carry any teeth he collected as he scuttled through the dark streets. If you'd like to support us on Patreon or on Apple Podcasts, we'll say hello to you on the show. You can hear our stories advert-free, and you'll have access to 45 Owlet bonus stories and at least 30 Super Great Scary stories. Plus, you will get access to our Super Great Kids Stories Express with short introductions, no adverts, purely story. Great for listening to stories back to back. And did you know that you can now gift a Patreon membership? Visit our website for more details, supergreatkidsstories.com. Keep telling your stories and singing those songs. Stay warm if it's winter wherever you are, and keep cool if you're down south. Thanks again to our storyteller from Germany, Simone. And keep listening because we have another very different Cinderella-type bonus story for you this week, told by storyteller Nick Hennessy. This podcast was produced at Wardour Studios in fabulous Fitzrovia in London.